Good morning, everyone. Beautiful Tuesday in the Swift. I'm gonna take a break. Man, I just received the second load of shredded bark yesterday, and I'm at the very end of week 1 everyday process. So I'm gonna take a break, and I'm gonna yap a little bit about maintaining biodiversity. So what we have is an area of our preserve. We are so lucky that we have so many ecosystems within this beautiful piece of property. If you've never heard of Dr. Ed Voss, he is like the guy in Michigan and beyond for botany. And he has this amazing book. I've got a copy of it. I'm not sure what it's called, something like Dr. Voss's Book of Michigan Everything That Grows. And he cataloged every native plant, including a lot of non-natives that have been acclimated, and they're all in his book, and they also have maps where there were sightings. Dr. Ed Voss, I believe in the late 70s, came to this place, did a survey, it was part of his survey, and proclaimed it such a wonderful biodiverse system that it should be preserved, and lo and behold, it's a preserve. It's complex. Now there's a really nice guy that's been commenting on my Sericium palustra chemical treatments. You know, and I agree with him in many ways. However, it's apples and oranges. You know, he's talking about their symptom and shouldn't use glyphosates for control. In many cases, I agree, but this is a particular case. It's a complex system. I can't cure the symptoms without draining a swamp and changing the pH, which would eliminate our native northern Michigan orchids and our potential Michigan monkey flowers and all the other plants that like those conditions. So I have to selectively wipe out one that's going to carpet the system eventually if left unchecked. And believe me, I've tried to pull those things for the past 5 years, and I have not slowed their advance. So I have to use glyphosate, or else, you know, just admit defeat and let them take over. This area looks pretty dead. You can see all the trees. There's one cottonwood. I'm not going to take it down because it's leaning away from the trail, and the snags are important to certain birds. But the trees have been dying back in here. And it's not because of anything in particular other than changing water conditions. When these trees were established, the white ashes and black ashes, of course, are succumbing to the emerald ash borer. But the birches, which are typically a disturbance species, and the firs and the cottonwoods and other trees are dying because it's watery. Now, this is going to be a perfect beachhead. It hasn't hit yet, and that's why I want to control it. This thing, perfect conditions for that Sericium palustra, the marsh thistle. It could completely cover this. And so it's my goal to stop it before it gets to this point. It's tough with the forget-me-nots because this is going to be forget-me-not heaven, and the only way to control that, and it's a prescribed method, is to go in here and remove the native species, put them in pots, save them, and then blast it. Absolutely kill everything in here over a period of years, because seeds have the ability to survive. Wild garlic mustard those seeds can survive 5 years. And then replant and then seed and plug. I'm not going to go that route. I am going to add some native species, native species, within this time frame, because changing climates, you know, it's an ebb and flow of native species. I'm going to go with the ones that should be here. Help them a little bit, you know. By adding plugs and seeding, then I'm going to stop the advance of non-native species. Forget-me-nots, possibly, but they're low and creepy. But there's some schools of thought. Now, I'm losing trees in here, and so it probably wouldn't hurt, I say probably, to do a little research, which I already have, in what Michigan, northern Michigan native trees would do well in here if I wanted to add a few trees. Now, it's not necessary. I do not need to play Overlord to this place, you know, and modify it. I am going to, in the upper reaches, in the drier, where the white ashes have succumbed, I'm losing diversity, so I'm going to plug in some sugar maples, which are in the area, this immediate area, and also black walnuts, just to add diversity and supply seed source for the creatures. In this area, heck, you know, why not? I might put in a swamp white oak or two, you know, just to have a tree or two. And also the acorns would supply food source for animals. And just adding a tree or two, native trees, isn't going to disrupt the march of the cattails, which is great because from my youth, one of the favorite birds of mine was a red-winged blackbird, because I lived in the swamps in the rivers of Jackson County, and it holds special meaning to me. And we have a good red-winged blackbird population. Now, as far as other little things, I'm going to shimmy this around. In this little area, many people just walk past it, but we have Canada Mayflower, we have blue-beaded lilies, we have Prince's pine, princes, like multiple princes, or it's also called, too many things in my head. Let's just call it Prince's pine, a medicinal plant, very, very useful in the native community. Let's see if I can find one. We have starry false Solomon seal, we have wild columbine, there's a little wild columbine, we have choke cherries. Let me find a Prince's pine. I don't want to be a liar. We also have some little Eurasian honeysuckles, which, when they're small, can be just pulled out by the roots. I've basically knocked out the autumn olive, the barberry. We haven't had any Japanese knotweed in here, which is evil and must be controlled with glyphosate. Along the coastline, I don't think I'm going to find any Prince's pine. So, oh, there's some. There we go. That little one that looks like Vinca minor. Let's go down to the beach. I want to tell you a success story. And plus, you know, what's better than seeing the water in the morning? I'm going to do you all a salad. A funny story. See that birch? See those beach steps? I had just completed the beach steps. And I had the shredded bark down. It's like, yay, all the hard work is done. And then some friends of mine, Sally and Ken, came up and said, hey, John, did you know that birch tree came down and clubbed your beach steps and broke the handrails? Well, that's life in the big city. Along the rails here, we have smooth rows. Down at the beach, there's a couple of invasives. One isn't so bad, bladder campion, which doesn't choke things out. But we have, there's silverweed, there's all sorts of neat things down here, rough horsetail. But this is a major site, this whole beach and into the dunes down yonder. Spotted knapweed is bad. That is one, luckily, that we don't need to spray. We can just pull up by the roots cleanly. And this whole area, if we didn't control it, there would be no American beach grass, there would be no nothing down here except for spotted knapweed, because it's phytotoxic. It is so bad that if you pull it on a regular basis, you should wear gloves or you can get tumors. It can poison the ground for other plants. It's bad, bad, bad. Now in our protected area, we have a thing called pitcher thistle, which is a native thistle. And in our little protected area, we have a good quantity of it, more than anywhere else along the beach, because we keep people from stomping it out of existence. We have Lake Huron tansy currently, which is kind of a nomad. Sand cherry, a couple artemisias. Wonderful environment because we are on our game as far as controlling invasive species. That's the bluff. There's my little hexagon kind of a thing. A couple little duckies out there. There's the beauty shot. There's Wisconsin. You can see it because the earth is flat. No, I'm sorry. I don't believe that, and I can't see Wisconsin. There's the UP, eh? And the Yoopers should appreciate that. We're in Harbor Springs. There's a harbor and we have springs. And one of the reasons is, look at these people, they made little clay monsters. They dig it up. Is we have a thick layer of clay under the entire joint, under everywhere. And so it acts like a funneling mechanism for water. And when the water pokes up through it, we have springs. There's a little quadruped trap. See that birch tree right there? The one laying on the ground? That was scary, and that's one reason why I have to keep my eyes open, is that in my first year here, there was a family that was up in the beach grass, and that birch tree came down and landed between everyone. No one was hurt. It scared the heck out of them. And there we go. One of the biggest points of contention down here is beach, because if I didn't have boundaries, which a lot of people don't like, people would be in the neighbors' yards and we'd get sued and shut down. Here's my sun circle. And nothing personal to dog people, but our wildlife views everything on four legs that's a canine as coyote or a wolf. And if people were allowed to walk their dogs down here, we wouldn't see those turkeys, we wouldn't be able to see the deer, wouldn't see the foxes. They would basically be pushed out. And so it's a matter of just being kind to our residents. This is an old dune. Couple steps here. I'm going back up. Big old cottonwood. That one is somewhat alive, so, and it's pointing away from the trail, so I don't need to worry about it. That's my yap for today. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I've shared some time with everyone out there that's watching this. Appreciate it. And it's time for this tired old man to march on and do the shredded bark. It's Memorial Day weekend coming up, and I still have half the trail to do, and in 4 days I'm gonna have this thing done. There we go. What a nice spot. Okay, extra, because I'm not ready to shovel this stuff. You can turn it off, a little bit of ditching, keep the trails hardened. And what I have done is I don't want to drain the swamp. I don't want to change the ecosystem. There is a little dam off the trail. Hold the water. There's more dams up there. I've just managed to control the trail along the trail corridor without changing the drainage system of the preserve as a whole. Angelica, invasive, but it doesn't progress as fast as marsh thistle, so I do control it, but it's not a priority like Sericium palustra, which is the most pressing concern of mine in here, aside from people getting squashed from dead trees. Wild garlic mustard has been wiped out, and I was controlling that mechanically by pulling, but wasn't killing it off, and so I did this spring because it was one of the first plants to green out. I was able to spray it with the glyphosate, with the Spectracide, and as far as I know, there are 0 wild garlic mustard plants in here now, which is good. Spotted knapweed and WGM is a success story. Can't be mad at me for wasting your time. I said you can turn it off now. This is another view. Let's walk up to the pond. I'm going to talk about invasives and I'm going to talk about natives. Now, many of you like plants. Plants are fun. You know, I live in the woods. I live in a wildflower garden. So what does my backyard look like? Wildflower gardens. I have developed with different soils a variety of little habitats. And what I want to do is reestablish the native plants that have been disappearing. So I have my little gardens that I can guard and take care of and baby, and they're a source for plants then will come out here. Mayflower, what's the Latin name for that? Oh, one of the Mayflowers was over harvested in here. There was a Catholic church in the area that would just gather it along our road and completely wiped it out. Green frogs. That is not a cattail if you're sharp of eye. That is actually Calamus americana. That's a weekay, which is big in the native community too. And back there, we tried to establish American lotus, which is a native plant. It's also called duck acorns. We have ducks. Kind of tells you what happened to that. But I shall, up top, around the house, because we don't have muskrats up at the house. We have muskrats here. I am going to establish some more, and adult plants should be able to survive. That green space up there, cattails and different grasses and sedges. Another advance of marsh thistle. It could choke that out and make it like not a nice place for the ducks to nest. That's a spot where I am controlling that evil stuff. Got to have a dam at the back side so I can control the level. Burr marigolds. Sensitive ferns of all things growing here. A lot of duckweed. Forget-me-nots. Mosses. Green frogs. Peeperzoids. And then I have the algae that's in the pond. I can always tell if a snapping turtle is in here. If I see straight lines like a roadway in that algae, I'll come and watch this place until I can catch a turtle and then release him in a bigger body of water, because one big snapping turtle could clean out every single frog in here. That's what they do. They march from pond to pond, killing everything and then going off. One of our native turtles that is very adaptable and is not in danger of going extinct by any means, not like the wood turtle and Blanding's turtles and all the other turtles, eastern box that, you know, are in danger of being instinctified. And that is that. I've yapped long enough. It is now time to go to work. I am injury-free. I'm exhausted as I'll get out, but I'm injury-free, which is par for the course, and I am glad. If I've got knees, I can push my wheelbarrow. It's a cool plant. Oh, right next to Sericium palustra, but that is broadleaf toothworts in the mustard family. Tasty, tasty, tasty. I have some poison ivy in here. It hasn't popped up yet. Oh, there it is. Nope, that's broadleaf toothwort. It can look alike in the beginning. The poison ivy off the trail system I keep. I have no beef with poison ivy. Oh, Eli, this is for you. You're in Minnesota. And Mark, we have a colony of, let me get so you can see this, of showy lady slippers. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name. Showy lady slippers growing here. I've got this little fence around here to keep well-meaning photographers from trampling the babies. In this case, I'm not going to risk the glyphosate because I don't want to hit a young showy lady slipper, so all these are going to be controlled by pulling. And that is that. Moss, trees, frogs, salamanders, foxes, coyotes, occasional bears. Thought you'd want to hear some bird sounds. Eastern white cedar, hemlock, which is not the same as water hemlock. That's a giant tree. Early in history, Little Traverse Bay would be flowing red because the inner bark of hemlock is red and it contains a lot of good tannins, and so they used it in the tanning trade, and so there were tanneries all along Little Traverse Bay, polluting the water with tannin goo and the red from inner bark of hemlocks, and it was just running red. It's a birch conch. This is a cool area. This is full of asters in late summer, blooming asters. This is just like a flower garden, and it's cool because there's tons of monarchs that come down in here. Also lightning bugs. Remember lightning bugs when you were little? Catching them in jars? Magical times of youth. I'm kind of saddened that the modern day youth live their time in front of a computer, not just running around outside. What happened to us, Larry? We got old. Asters, a lot of dead black ash, which is very sad because the loss of the tree and also the loss of the craft. The native community, big in black ash basket making, it's not happening anymore. Yellow birch is doing well, doesn't mind the water. River birch would do well in here along with yellow birch. They would stand the water a little better. But again, my goal isn't to completely fill this in with trees and turn it into a forest. You know, every biome, that's today's vocabulary word, every biome contains its own assemblage of species. Animal life, plant life, microbes, froggies, everything. Haha, Eurasian honeysuckle, you are doomed. Woodpeckers. I think that you would be hard-pressed to find a white cedar tree 9 inches in diameter at the base, or larger, that wasn't hollow up the first 5 or 6 feet from carpenter ants. Doesn't hurt it. They're attacking the inner layers, not the outer layers. Makes good woodpecker forage. Still waiting for our bats. This is a very batty area. And with that, I've stalled long enough. Relentless says, push me.